Wake up, samurai. We're putting copies of Ad Nauseam into a lands deck. Hello folks, Phil Gallagher, aka ThrabenU here for another Legacy video, and Michael has challenged me to put 2 copies of Ad Nauseam into a lands style deck list. Okay, so what's the idea here? Is this just madness? No, I actually don't think it is. Storm decks can utilize Ad Nauseam, as can many competitive CEDH decks, because the overall converted mana cost of those decks is incredibly low. And if you are playing a Legacy lands or depths deck list with, 30-ish lands in it, your average converted mana cost is very low as well. So the overall theory today is going to be that Ad Nauseam is the backup plan for your deck when the early game goes wrong. And Ad Nauseam can be kind of a 5-mana draw, a quarter of your deck or more way for you to get back into the game. And we're going to go on a bit of a journey now, because brewing this deck has taken me to some weird places, and I'm actually going to record this deck tech now right after I made the deck, and then I'm going to record this video on a different day because I just need to do this while it's fresh. So Michael sent me 2 initial deck lists, and this was the first. Now, this first idea is attempting to utilize the interaction between Manabond and Ad Nauseam. The idea being, you use Ad Nauseam, you draw an unhealthy number of cards, and you dump every single one of them into play with Manabond at your end step. And that's honestly really cool. However, I think this deck is fundamentally flawed as it was built. You are trying to be a Field of the Dead deck, which should mean that you want to optimize Field of the Dead and have as many different names as possible, with the only exceptions to that being something like Mazavith that is incredibly important to your survival. However, if you also want to be like a Dark Depths and Thespian stage deck list, that strategy wants you to have as many redundant copies of the cards as possible so that it can consistently work. And another problem is that if you are trying to get black for Ad Nauseam in a deck that is essentially a mono green mana base, you're incentivized to add cards like Lotus Petal or play a whole bunch of copies of lands like BREW. So I knew pretty quickly that while there was something conceptually cool here, this one wasn't going to work. Let's take a look at idea number 2 that Michael sent me. Decklist number 2 was trying to utilize this in more of a Hexmage Turbo Depths style way, using Turbo Depths as the starting point instead. But this runs into the same problems the last decklist did, in that Michael has fixed this in that he has added like Dark Depths and Thespian Stage in numbers to try to make this work. But the fewer copies of Urborg you have, the less likely you are to just be able to do like turn 1 Depths, turn 2 Urborg, Vampire Hexmage, go. And that's something that you want to do as much as possible. And the average converted mana cost of this deck is actually quite high. With 10 2-drops, 11 1-drops, your Ad Nauseam is maybe not going to be as good as you might want it to be as your primary backup plan. And I'm going to pull these BREWs over here for a second. You become a worse Field of the Dead deck by going further down the Dark Depths chain because you end up with fewer singleton lands for something like Field of the Dead. So I think some steps were made in the right direction here. And I am going to go back about 1.5 years to a deck list that I played on this channel for some inspiration. So, a while back, I played this Ad Nauseam Depths deck that was built under similar logic. And I 4-1'd with this deck. If memory serves, I think it was Sean D who did some of the work in getting this tuned up to the point where it's at now. It's a great video. It probably stands the test of time. And the conceptual difference, oh, excuse me. The conceptual deck list between this and the previous two deck lists is that this deck is planning on making the Marit Lage. Like, that is the plan. And the fast mana adds to that plan. The fast mana can be used to get Ad Naus if you don't. Sorry, the fast mana can be used to get you to an Ad Naus and draw you most of your deck. Or the Ad Naus can be used to find you the fast mana to then power something else out afterwards. And so this conceptually ends up being kind of a better Ad Naus deck. And this deck just got people dead. So what I'm looking to do is combine some of Michael's ideas with this. So this is what I came up with after bashing my head against the wall for a while. So I wanted to lower, let me that way for you. I wanted to lower the average converted mana cost of this deck list. So I have added some Mishra's Baubles to help us get Metalcraft for Mox Opal while also being a redraw when we don't need that. Something Michael said in his initial donation was he wasn't sure whether or not Urza's Saga belongs in the deck list. And I think that's fair. But Michael's primary concern was about the colored pips. Well, look what I've done. I have made this deck into a largely colorless deck that will occasionally need black pips for Vampire Hexmage or Ad Naus, and then single green for a tutor or maybe something like a Boseiju activation. So instead of the plans being like Field of the Dead and Dark Depths and Manabond combo, we are going to make this a Dark Depths deck that has Urza Saga as plan B. And the deck just happens to have some copies of Ad Naus in it that can draw a good number of cards. Since we are really planning on being a land-based deck list, we're actually going to opt to main deck Pithing Needle to stop Wasteland and Caracas. While this won't always be good, in the times where it's not that good, you'll probably find something else that you can name on your opponent's side. You know, at worst, something like a fetch land, at best, maybe a major planeswalker or an Aether Vial. So we have Urza's Saga plus Shadowspear to gain a bunch of life that we can then burn on an Ad Naus, and we have a bunch of fast mana that we can use to power out Vampire Hexmage Dark Depths, maybe on turn 1 some portion of the time, and otherwise we can very quickly get to large Urza Saga tokens. The sideboard is a little weird, because I am playing just an ungodly number of artifacts in this land-based deck. I can't play something like Collector Oof, which means that I opted for some extra copies of Boseiju, and I didn't think we could get away with Force of Vigor because my green count is very low, and that's why we don't have Endurance either. I wanted a fetchable piece of Graveyard Hate for Urza Saga, and then we did some fairies to round things out. I thought that having something that I could hardcast in a pinch would, like, legitimately not be that bad, and I didn't think I could go for 4 copies of Tormod's Crypt for the games that I was on the draw versus something like Reanimator. Otherwise, we're going to have some disruption for combo. In Game 1, we are fully planning on racing them either with large constructs or with a 20/20, and then we need Dismember specifically as an answer to Magus of the Moon. We are probably not going to play Dismember all that much unless, a Collector Oof or Magus of the Moon is going to be a real concern on the other side of the table, because Dismember works against the Ad Naus plan. Although admittedly, Ad Naus is going to be one of the weaker cards in the deck, and it often might be cut when we need to bring in sideboard cards. I think that's just going to be the reality of the situation. All right, that probably ended up being a very long deck tech, but that's kind of where my head was at in designing this deck list, and we'll kind of see how it plays out. Yeah, I think that's all I have to say. If you need any paper magic cards, check out Cool Stuff Inc. Use promo code ThrabenU to save 5% on your order. Let's battle. I mean, like, not right now. I'm gonna battle tomorrow. Okay, one quick note before I get going here. The deck list I had on screen yesterday definitely had 5 Pithing Needles, so I added in one more bauble. We have a turn 1 Sylvan Scrying to find a Thespian stage, and we will combo pretty quickly with this hand. I am good with this. And, ooh, that makes me slightly nervous that we could just get mooned. This turn got really interesting now that my opponent potentially has Blood Moon. Like, what do I discard to the Mox Diamond? Because I was planning on just discarding both Seiju. Okay. I guess it's Bayou and I ignore. Maybe it's Ancient Tomb? Maybe it's Ancient Tomb. Like, discard Ancient Tomb. Play this. Sylvan Scrying for Thespian stage. Yeah. Mouse turn. And talking about one other thing here. The, ooh. I can name Urza Saga now. We're playing against Painter. Or alternatively, interesting. Alternatively, I just like name Urza Saga and Grindstone immediately. Just shut off my secondary win condition. Or just name Grindstone twice. Like, I'm not losing to Urza Saga construct tokens this game, probably. Alright. Alright, there's Grindstone. Let's do another one. My name's Shadow Spear, actually? So my opponent doesn't go above 20 life and buy time. Now let's shut off Urza Saga. Let's just not lose to that. I think with a Boseiju, I'm just very safe versus Painter combo anyway. Sure. Black-red Painter. Fable's fine. Now let's play a Dark Depths as my land. I guess I actually want to play the Mox Diamond, oddly, because I can make a Marit Lage and then 1 mana Boseiju afterwards if I need to. Oh, fuck, I clicked through that. That's fine. I mean, it's not fine. Okay. Bowmaster's in graveyard, notably. That makes Thopters, which is annoying. Yeah, but I fully planned on playing around this line. Alright, take 2. Another Fable. Alright. Yeah, I might lose this one to Brea's Apprentice copying because I didn't respond to this. So let's take that out. There is a Mox Opal. I'm fine with that. I can now make my 2020 as a starting point. Opponent got rid of their artifact that they could have used to bring back Pithing Needle. But I think they're using this, like, they can sack a treasure, I guess, to bring back Brea's. There's Painter. I probably respond to this by making my 2020. I'll target Dark Depths, do the thing. And this is just so my land doesn't get blasted. Yeah, so my opponent has to attack with one of these to make an extra artifact. I'll go ahead and block and eat that. And now I've got to get through this army. Age is not the best here. Alright, so my opponent makes a 1/1 Thopter. I'll attack. Like, I will make my opponent demonstrate that they can figure out how to copy a Thopter. It's pretty straightforward, but I'll make them do that. Yeah, but I think I've fully punted that one. Welcome to Getting Focused Up at the beginning of a recording session. I'm Phil. Alright, so that transforms. Yep. I'll take 3. End of turn. I'm going to copy a mountain. I'm just going to do that to get a Thespian stage with a different name, in case that becomes relevant for Pithing Needle recursion later. Alright, show me that you understand how your deck works. You indeed showed me. Alright, at this point I probably stop attacking because they've demonstrated that they understand the thing. And I gotta figure out how to beat this. This is the point where something like an Ad Nauseam could be cool. All right, they've named Boseiju, which is reasonable. They don't know that I only have one of those. There's another Goblin Engineer. Sure. With my own Urza Saga Pithing Needle, this may just be the point that I value my time and just accept that I punted this one. Let's take a look at the deck list real quick, just make sure that I'm not really missing anything. Yeah, with my own Urza Saga Pithing Needled here, like I can find a Shadow Spear and force damage through. I guess that's the plan. All right. That's the plan. This is awkward, obviously. Okay, they Pyroblast that. That's okay. So that copies a Goblin Engineer. There's a Grindstone. Goblin Engineer is only your own graveyard, right? Yeah. It is not Goblin Welder. They can't weld my map and needle. All right, they pick up a Grindstone. You have another blast. You have another blast. Okay, that is fine. We will concede to that. I punted that game. All right, Oseiju's in, and Dismembers are probably reasonable. Ojukabog's probably playable. We are, generally speaking, hoping that this matchup goes fast enough that I don't need Ad Nauseam. I do potentially have to worry about Blood Moon effects. My Pithing Needles are still good. I think I'm going to junk Ancient Tombs for these, and then turn one Nurturing Peatland into Bojukabog, and then that means that I don't actually have to cut all that many real cards. I'm going to go down one Bauble since my opponent was playing Bowmasters, I guess. Although I do expect them to board them out. How is this? This is the wrong one of these. We want Urborg with a hand like this. This takes a lot of self-damage off Dismembers. I think I can probably do better. Opal Petal, no Metalcraft, no land for Mox Diamond. And this does get sacrificed if you don't discard a land. So I think we're a little short here. I will go to 5. So Mox Diamond, discard Urza Saga. Urza Saga. Pithing Needle, Grindstone immediately. It's a keep. This goes back. Maybe I ignore Needle and just Sylvan Scrying for another land drop on turn 1, while also taking a redraw. Okay. Let's do that. So Diamond, discard Saga, Sylvan Scrying, probably for half the combo, probably for Thespian stage here. We'll Bobble and see what you've got going on. You've got Pithing Needle going on for my Urza Saga, which is brutal. Although it might go on Thespian stage, we'll see. The Urza Saga, if it does get needled, can still just be okay. All right, a turn 1 Fable. I am going to get Urza Saga tokens. Ooh. I think I'm going to just go ahead and play this out and not like Sylvan Scrying immediately. Fuck, I'm supposed to play out Lotus Petal there so that I have a 3/3. I'm playing like crap. Although I don't know. Oh, maybe I don't make the construct immediately so that I can play around like Fury and Friends. All right, no, I think it was just a mistake. Opponent holding up mana here. All right. There's an expedition map. I think we are on the beatdown plan. Or what are you doing? Opposition agent. That is quite annoying. I was planning on using like a Mox Opal to play out expedition map and then play Lotus Petal. All right, opponent selects a Mox Opal. Sure. So let's play out a Lotus Petal. And we're on the beatdown plan versus opposition agent. Sure. All right, that flips. I imagine my stage gets needled here. Yep. Great Furnace gives Metalcraft. Although Goblin Shaman also would have given Metalcraft, sure. There's Painter's Servant and Grindstone. That's a lot. Urborg. Okay. So, play Urborg. Play map, turn these into 5/5s. I guess we're sending them, but I think my opponent just has this. I hold my stuff back. Just doesn't go anywhere. My opponent just has all the mana that they need. Or no, they don't, right? 1, 2, 3. They need 4. Sure. That's not bad. So I will equip Shadow Spirit and send them. Here's the Goblin Engineer activation. Getting Painter. A blast on the Construct token. A second blast on the Construct token. Okay. At this point, we're not really on outs. I think I punted both of those games. Today's video is sponsored by Moxfield.com. Just the best place to host your deck lists online, just full period. It is. And I can say lots of nice things about them, or I can just show you that I have 328 deck lists on this site, and I think that's about the best endorsement that I can give them. Okay, this is a little bit of a weird game in that I can actively pursue a 20/20 or I can actively pursue constructs. And I think my plan is actively pursue constructs. We're going to keep this bauble in play for right now to grow the constructs. And then the Dark Depths is going to be plan B instead of plan A here. Forest Exploration. Don't want to see that. So now let's turn this into a new card. Opponent has crop rotation coming. Not the biggest fan of that. Are we just doing the run back? I think we're doing the run back. And we'll go ahead and put this on Wasteland. So now my stuff can't be disrupted, and we hope that we are the faster deck than they are. They've got Exploration, though, which is going to make that tough. Fuck! How dare you? Oh. Well, this is awkward. Does my opponent... No, okay. No, I have to give up, I think, the Urza Saga value. I don't want to, but I think my opponent... Okay, sure. So they're going to get an Ancient Tomb, or a Yavimaya, same effect. So now they can target their Dark Depths for mana. I'll let them copy it. And then... Bam! You do get a Taiga out of the deal. Your own Urza Saga. It's mighty rude. Okay. So, let's load a mana. Make it green. I can just Pithing Needle their Urza Saga. Alright, mutually assured destruction. So we Pithing Needle Urza's Saga. I'll now Sylvan Scrying for a Thespian Stage. Play Thespian Stage as my land drop for turn. And then pass. And on my next turn, I can make a 20/20. It just gets weird if they play Thespian Stage, which thankfully they did not. Now they could still crop rotation for it, like that's a thing. So Mox Diamond, discard Ancient Tomb. I don't even need to do that. I think I will. The Mox Diamond, discard Ancient Tomb, play Dark Depths, cast Pithing Needle, name Boseiju, pass turn, and then I will upkeep, make my monster. Keep the one with no counters. Oh, maybe I should have named Expedition Map instead, because Expedition Map for Karakas could be a thing that gets me here instead of playing around Boseiju. Yeah, I am not happy with my play today. I'm figuring out all the lines just 10 seconds too slowly. Yep. Okay. Well, isn't this a pile of awkward? I don't think you're supposed to let me untap. In case my deck has crop rotation. Yep. Alright. Land drop, pass. Neither one of our decks is now particularly good at winning the game. I think my opponent's favored, though. Life from the Loam. Yeah. Now they get there, 2020. Sure. I think you'd make that at sorcery speed, so I can't make my own one, but it doesn't matter. Dead. Alright. So I would like more copies of this card. I would like Bojuka Bog. I might want this. I don't think I want Fairy or Discard. These symmetrical Pithing Needles are really weird, and we've run into it 2 rounds in a row. I think I'm dropping Ancient Tombs for Boseiju. I think I will go down a this for a that. I want the Ad Nauseams here. They are a great draw engine. And let's just go down 1 Mox Opal for the Tormod's Crypt. I would indeed like to play first. What does this hand do? Mox Diamond, discard you. Lotus Petal, can cast Sylvan Scrying on 1. But I'm missing both pieces of the combo and I can only find 1 piece. I don't think I like that. 1, 2, 3, 4 mana towards Ad Nauseam? The hand's a keep. So if I keep these 3 artifacts and Peatland, I can play Vampire Hexmage on turn 1. But then I'm throwing back Thespian Stage, which is mana towards Ad Nauseam. This is a weird hand. It's possible the Vampire Hexmage is just a trap. And I'm just supposed to get rid of it and keep everything that helps me cast Ad Nauseam. So let's play out the artifacts. And we do this because Sphere of Resistances are a very real thing. And I'll pass the turn. We're keeping this for Metalcraft reasons, at least for right now. Force of Vigor. Fuck me. Okay. Yeah, we're now cracking a bobble. But that's brutal. We might just be dead. Okay, we're not dead. That was a good draw. But like a Wasteland or equivalent is very bad. Yeah, yep. Right now. Sure. And a second one. Rough. Okay. Yeah, life's bad. I will immediately concede to a Life from the Loam. Yes. Oh, no basics. Good deck building, Phil. Okay, sure. All right. So you're telling me there's a chance. My opponent has 1 mana. Like, they're very likely to, to draw lands. I guess I am too. All right. Bobble. Target you. Let's see what you're drawing. Thespian Stage. That makes it incredibly awkward for me to just fucking play out this Dark Depths. But I am just going to play out this Dark Depths because if this game goes on, my opponent wins, and I need to just make a land drop in hopes of hitting a Yavimaya to cast Sylvan Scrying for the other half of my combo. Negative. So, am I needling Stage? And the plan instead becomes win via Urza Saga. Yup. Hate this. I hate everything about this. Not even a mana producer. Draw my own Thespian Stage? Ah. You don't produce mana. Sylvan Library will bury me. Like, I had 4 mana in my starting hand, and then my opponent obliterated too much of my mana. This Sylvan Library just, like, finds a Life from the Loam or other source of card advantage like Urza Saga, and then I don't win. Urborg is one of the biggest things that I'm hoping for, but it would need to be Urborg into something. Yeah, okay. Something that beats Mazavith. But we can pack it in here. That's fine. Okay. These Mox Diamonds are dead in this hand, which probably means that this one is just a mulligan. Hey, it's a fast hand. Keep this. Pitch the second copy of Mox Opal. This just makes a 2020 on turn 2. My opponent is mulliganing to 4. Alright, so what are we doing? Probably nothing I care about. I'd love to draw a 0-cost artifact here to just go off on turn 1. A Thespian Stage. Okay. So is my Metalcraft relevant right now? It is if my opponent Blood Moons me. So let's go bam, bam. I think I am playing Urborg here, so that if I do get Blood Mooned, I can play a Dark Depths with 0 counters on it. Human? Ooh, if this is a white deck, they do have outs to a 2020 creature. So Solitude is probably the only thing we have to worry about. Not 100%. Some of these decks do play Game 1 Swords to Plowshares. But it's probably just Solitude plus white card, unless my opponent just naturally has Karakas. Map's okay if we end up needing to try again. But hopefully that is not the case. And we're just going to immediately rip these counters off. Make my 2020. Actually, I had a better line there, right? Because I play Expedition Map. That turns on Mox Opal. And then I have Metalcraft, so I could have ended up 1 mana further ahead. So here's the Caves of Chaos Adventurer attack. This is just going to be looking for something that is an out to Marit Lage. Oh, it's Solitude, sure. Okay. Yeah. So let's play a Dark Depths. Play an Expedition Map. Opal is on. That doesn't matter right now. Map is on. That doesn't matter right now. I'll make another 2020 creature on my turn. I'm at 35 life. I guess the big thing I need to dodge is another Solitude off. Throne of the Dead 3. There's another Solitude. But that one's currently hanging out in exile. And it seems like my opponent is opting not to cast it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Do I need to Expedition Map search? No. So let's do Thespian stage and pass. All right, you go to Catacombs. Make a 4/1. Let's see what this reveals on attack. It's a Simian Spirit Guide. I'm going to go ahead and make a new 2020. Keep the one with no counters. We will eat Caves of Chaos Adventurer. And see if my opponent has a Solitude left over. No, but they have an initiative creature. So they get a few looks at Solitude. And they miss. Do I care about Metalcraft? Do I just want to draw a card here? Not super sure it matters either way. Let's keep Metalcraft. Sure. So 2 of my opponent's copies of Solitude are gone. Presumably all of their copies of Touch the Spirit Realm are gone. There can maybe be a chump block situation that happens. Let's just do this and get a plan B going, just in case some stuff goes wrong. You may have another basic land. Okay, there's another Plains. 4th Aerlingas, sure. That will give my opponent another draw at Monarch. Sure. Ancient Tomb. You can be the Monarch. You have to have Solitude plus white card here. And they do not. Not a perfectly played game, but good enough. So my plan is largely race my opponent. The game where I'm on the draw, that's going to be tough. My Pithing Needles aren't super good here because I'm expecting exile-based removal. So we probably junk that and play some Dismembers for opposing creatures and maybe a Thoughtseize to round things out. Does my opponent pressure my life total enough that I never Ad Naus? Probably. It's just so easy to be like attacked on turn 2 with a Caves of Chaos Adventurer with counters on it or something like that. So let's bump up the Thoughtseizes. I could go heavier on both Seiju if I like to help with Chalices. I don't really view Chalices as the biggest problem in the world. These are not like the best on the draw. I could just go land heavier and then my Mox Diamonds are better. Miser's Thoughtseize for good luck. I am not a fan of this hand. It just doesn't really do anything. This hand and dismember the first threat that my opponent plays. It then has Dark Depths and Thespian Stage in addition to that. This is a keep. The Mox Opal doesn't really do anything right now. I think I get rid of that over the redundant Dark Depths. And some portion of the time I spike a Vampire Hexmage and just do a thing on turn 2. Sure, that's white mana, not red mana. Okay. That's fine. Mox Diamond's really good here. Let's Mox Diamond, discarding the redundant Dark Depths. And I need to play either Dark Depths or Urborg here. I think I played Dark Depths. Actually, I should play Urborg because of Magus of the Moon. Do that. And now I can dismember this Archon on my opponent's turn. Fourth Aerlingas, sure. So let's go 4 life, take that out. You may play fourth Aerlingas and do some damage to my life total. The dismember doesn't help a lot here. Stage pass. Make 20/20 on my own turn. Yep. Seasoned Dungeoneer is fine. This is really all just going to be, does my opponent have an answer to the 20/20 that I create? Fuck. Stupid flex land. I'm at 8. Imagine that I'm dead. Copy that just in case. Sure. I don't have Pithing Needle right now, nor do I really think I'm supposed to play it for this. It's just so bad in the rest of the matchup. Yeah, that'll do. Like, I can Pithing Needle Caracas specifically. I think most of the time, like, this is my out to that. I'll keep the Miser's Thoughtseize. Okay. This can make a Vampire Hexmage on turn 1, but I don't have the second half of my combo. I can have 3 draws towards a Dark Depths, just bobble plus top card of library, while having a 2/1 in play. Is that better than a mulligan? Probably, honestly. So, bobble, petal, opal, bayou, Hexmage, bobble. Look at you. You've got an Archon coming. I don't need to draw both of these cards immediately. I'll draw 1 card now. Oh, hell yeah. There's the Dark Depths. So then I probably keep bobble. How dare you? Yes. I play Thespian Stage on my own turn. I want the Metalcraft for if I draw exactly another Vampire Hexmage. I don't crack. I did not. I'm going to play Lotus Petal. Bobble you. Chromox is fine. Play Thespian Stage this turn, because this is the one that I need to be untapped next turn. Dark Depths can enter tapped just fine, and we're perfectly happy with that. All right. Oh, the Archon is under there. Sure. You may take the initiative. Take your planes. Bam. I'm just going to make this immediately. Keep the 1 with no counters. Show me another answer. You get to scry 2 for it if you need to. And they need to. Between the scry 2, the draw step, and the Caves of Chaos Adventurer trigger, like, they get to look at a lot of stuff. Gah! This is savage. And Magus of the Moon? Yeah, life's bad. Just a black hole, just an abyss right here. I don't even get to cycle that for a card draw right now. Alright. On very few outs, my draws need to be basically exactly right. This is just 7 damage right now. Touch the Spirit Realm, sure. It doesn't do a lot. So, this is not bad. Or is it? Like, I can get the Dark Depths, play the Dark Depths, but if I remove the Magus of the Moon, then the Caracas is still an out to it. It's really frustrating because there's probably like one of these in my opponent's deck, maybe two. I don't think I'm supposed to Pithing Needle for that. Fable of the Mirror Breaker as well. Yeah, that's bad. All right. That'll do. We're getting whomped. Okay, I'm going to be keeping this hand. It looks like Urza's Saga is probably plan A, and Dark Depths is the plan B later on. But I don't have to commit to that until after I see what my opponent does with their turn 1. We can also just like naturally draw Dark Depths and just blarp. Ancient Tomb. Chalice on 1. Okay. So my Expedition map doesn't do anything. Which Chalice of the Void deck am I playing against? I can just make a Marit Lage on turn 3. Let's work towards that. It's just really awkward if I play Urza Saga and then I get mooned. Although I guess the moon is good against me either way. This Cavern is probably going to be an initiative creature then. It is a Seasoned Dungeoneer again. Finding Plains. Lotus Petal? I'll play that now. Not sure that that really changes a ton. Let's pay the life for the green, cast Sylvan Scrying, pick up Dark Depths, and next turn I make a 20/20 and hope it's good. Hopefully my opponent just kind of goes down that left path, yeah, and then they don't have extra looks for Solitude. We know since they have Chalice in game 1, they don't have Swords to Plowshares in game 1. So that's the good news. Reveals a Solitude with Seasoned Dungeoneer. Damn it. That is frustrating. All right. So 2 Seasoned Dungeoneer attacks always kills me, right? Because Trap is also involved. Does this really have to be like, sadly hope that my opponent punts? Urza Saga is just not going to be fast enough here. Ugh. Play the second one of these, maybe? Then I can at least contest initiative. So I lose 5. I'm at 8. The Seasoned Dungeoneer attack hits me for 6 or 7. Promox gives them the last mana they need to hardcast Solitude. A Solitude went under. Sure. Finding Chalice of the Void. My opponent does not take. I go to 1. I am always dead to this next turn. And my opponent's last card is presumably another copy of Solitude. So, go me. I guess there are other options, but, you know. Send it. It is indeed another copy of Solitude. And then we're always dead to this attack. Okay. Well, this matchup's rough. Just free answers to my game plan is rough. The Ad Nauseam game plan isn't viable because they pressure my life total so much. Needles aren't really great. Do I have to play Discard? Like, I don't really want to play Dismember alongside Thoughtseize. Ugh. Alright. Alright. Turn 1 Dark Depths. And Mox Diamond discarding Bayou. And Lotus Petal. Turn 2 stage activate. The hand's a keep. I can also think about whether or not I want to start on Urza Saga instead. Like, I can have very large Urza Saga tokens pretty quickly, and then not just be dead to a single removal spell. Okay. Play Saga. And then we'll play out both pieces of Artifact mana, because things like Archon exist. I think discarding the Bayou. And then we can do some fair Urza Saga nonsense, followed up with a 20/20 later, hopefully after my opponent has used Swords to Plowshares type cards. Sure. An Archon went under there. And they have played a new Archon. That's why we played out the Artifact mana on turn 1. Sure. These will be Slightly smaller than I would like artifact tokens because I have to lose Lotus Petals to make these tokens off Urza Saga. I don't think that's the end of the world, but I might not end up making both constructs. Caves of Chaos Adventure, sure. You get your critter. And the Archon making this enter tapped was so annoying. Alright, am I making construct tokens? I think so. So there's a 3/3. Ooh, okay. There's a Solitude. Sure. So I lose out on this. I make the second one. I play Dark Depths, next turn this mana plus this mana, or I play Yavimaya is just enough to do the thing. I don't necessarily need something like a Mox Opal mana-wise. I can pick up like a Shadow Spear then. Alright. Is my construct attacking? As a 5/5, it's a pretty reasonable attack. I can just equip it with Shadow Spear next turn, though. Maybe I don't. Just play Dark Depths. And now I am threatening both Lifelink and a 20/20, both of which are problems. My opponent probably has to go down the right side to look for a new answer. This is why we wanted to do Urza Saga nonsense. Alright, they went one top, one bottom with that, so they presumably got something that will help them out. Okay, sure. It's another Caves of Chaos Adventurer. I'll take this damage. 14. Sure. An Urza Saga. I want the Dark Depths to produce an extra mana here. So let's play this. I will go 1 and 2. Whip Shadow Spear to my Construct token. Go and hit my opponent for 6 lifelink. I will take the initiative. Don't have a basic. Already made my land drop. Pass turn. So now I've got this whole Thespian stage Dark Depths thing coming. Sure. That can represent a hardcast Solitude. Sure. Touch the Spirit Realm. Okay, so the wording is you may play that card. Channeling is not playing. I can't make this now and block. I just have to take this damage. So my opponent can't second main phase do that thing. Alright, they stash. End of turn. Thespian stage. Target Dark Depths. I will be shrinking my construct, but hopefully I'm either killing my opponent or gaining 20 life. It is another Solitude. I cannot catch a break. Yep. This is now, unfortunately, just a 4/4. We are at 33 life. Send them. Alright. I think I forge for the counters. Like, scrying is all well and good, but the plan is make more artifacts. Crush. My opponent gains less life than I do. The Caves of Chaos Adventurer card advantage is pretty good right now, though. Finding a Seasoned Dungeoneer. That's a pain in the butt. That means Throne of the Dead 3 immediately happens, and there is a chance for another Solitude to happen. Or alternatively, just something that makes it so that I lose in combat. It is another Archon. Got it. That's big. So it's not the worst case scenario, but it's bad. This is a 7/7. Yeah, I mean, let's give my opponent a chance to make mistakes and throw away multiple bodies. But, like, this is a pretty easy double block. Oh, cool. They're blocking in a way that allows me to kill 2 creatures. That's a huge boon. Order like that. More tokens. Kill both those creatures. The next turn, I do this with this mana. My opponent controlling an extra. That Archon is a pain in the ass because it keeps me from making 2 sets of Urza Saga tokens next turn. This covers 1, Mox Opal, Plus, untapped land drop could do it, but this doesn't. I guess I'm just playing Urborg. I think my opponent just overruns me with the resources at their disposal, though. We'll see. Like, I can still oops Marit Lage. Alright, everything's coming in. Seasoned Dungeoneer reveals Seasoned Dungeoneer. Cool, cool, cool. Yeah. No blocks. All the damage. And then this gets my opponent. We'll see which way they go. Alright, they're going aggro. That's fine. This makes my potential attack worse. Sure. Sylvan Scrying. Am I taking 20 next turn? 5, 9, 12, 13, 14, 19, maybe? It's so hard for me to, like, Sylvan Scrying for something and Expedition Map to assemble both pieces and have that work. Alright. I make an artifact. I really only have to do 15 because trap. Like, I can go get Mox Opal, Shadow Spear, equip to one of these, play a new Urza Saga, and weather some damage on the ground. The Seasoned Dungeoneers being pseudo-unblockable is just brutal, though. I am just innately at 15, and I think dead to another removal spell. My opponent would have had Caracas too, if I would have tried to very aggressively go for a Marit Lage based line. Brutal. Spirit Guide? Oh, so it's just a very large 4th Aerlingas, while holding up Swords to Plow. Oh no, okay, sure. Alright. An opponent does the math is for blockers move. I assume that I am dead. There's another 4th Aerlingas on top. I guess my opponent stacked that in a way that Caves of Chaos Adventurer then gets rid of it. Okay, 6/6 goes here. 5/5 goes here. I assume that I'm dead. Like, this feels like it's more than 21 damage. Yep. Ugh. Okay, so I have access to both sides of my combo. This is not the fastest possible hand. I think it's good enough to keep. Alright, we are at least getting a slightly different matchup here. Yavimaya. That's actually quite good. I think I'm going to bobble and just kind of get a better feel for what deck my opponent is playing here. This is probably a like Reanimator Show and Tell hybrid deck list or a Reanimator deck with counter spells. Got it. Let's go. Bam. Bam. I am just going to try to go fast here and not respect days. Sure. Because I want to get the secondary land into my hand so that if I am put in a situation where my opponent show and tells, I can put in the second half of my combo and make my 20/20. My opponent has said no. Alright. I'll draw. Hey, that's another combo piece. That's great. Sure. So let's play depths. Play a stage. And pass. This is not the most mana efficient turn here. One piece of mana acceleration would have gone a long way there. Sure. I will go ahead and fetch. Grab Thespian stage. I don't think I play it immediately because playing it on my next turn has the same effect. I think I'm actually going to drop an Urza Saga as my land drop. Just get that ticking up. The token could be helpful in some sort of weird Archon scenario. Alright. Saga ticks up. Here is a Thespian stage. Pass turn. Alright, the London Mulligan is good. I don't know what my opponent's hand looked like, but if it's turn 5 and their combo deck did not present a win, or like do multiple things moving towards a win, I don't know that it was a keep. So this is probably not a Pithing Needle matchup. And one of the cards that we built the deck around is probably getting boarded out here. Because everything that matters in this matchup probably happens in the first 3 turns, one way or another. I don't fully know my opponent's exact plan, so I don't know how good the Graveyard Hate is. I am at the very least going to bring in Bojuka Bog to fill. I think the cost of playing these cards is probably very, very, very low. Like, Shadow Spear goes out for one of them. Oh, sorry, there's a Tormod's Crypt here. That always goes in. Because that's just tutorable off Urza's Saga. Bojuka Bog. Bojuka Bog can replace one of those. This is 60. Do I want to hedge further in this direction? Probably. Just like go down 2 tutors or something. Or go down a little fast mana. Like go down 2 opal since I'm boarding out some artifacts. That's reasonable. How do I feel about the double Thoughtseize, double Urborg hand? Probably good enough to keep it. It doesn't have green mana, which is awkward. So this is kind of like a really strong 5-card hand where this card probably gets turned into a card slightly later on. I think that's okay. But again, I don't know fully like what speed my opponent's deck is going to be operating at. I lost the uncastable card. Okay, nice, nice, nice. So Thoughtseize you. Brainstorm, Brazen Borrower, Palantir. If I take Brainstorm, I can just Thoughtseize one of the 3 drops afterwards and probably leave my opponent with nothing to do with their mana on turn 2. So I think I like that. Just operate on full information here. No shuffle there. I'm probably just going to cast Thoughtseize without making my land drop. I'm probably playing Urza Saga, but I want to be able to change my mind based on what I see over here. I might have drawn like a Force of Will, and they're considering forcing to protect Palantir. Force, pitch Brazen Borrower, so they're going to plan on putting Palantir in play. That means that I want to make the play that pressures my opponent's life total as quickly as possible. Sure. So I think the first time I take damage. 1 top, 1 bottom. No, let's take some damage. Blightsteel Colossus, okay. Sure. Yavimaya. So I guess my opponent is not using the graveyard. That's a show and tell. I don't think they're using the graveyard, then I put in Fairy. It's just awkward if my opponent puts in Archon of Cruelty. Thank you. Very cool. Discard the redundant Urborg. And then this Archon attack trigger kills me. Don't have bonus artifacts here. And my opponent gets to draw cards forever. Don't have outs to this creature. And it beats Marit Lage. This trigger just kills me on attack. Rough. So Lifelink doesn't really get me out of this situation. Expedition Map doesn't get me out of this situation. I'm just dead. That is disappointing. We got our asses whooped. That's an 0-5. Oh, wait, hold on. Hold on. We get a game 3. Not dead yet. I won that first game. So if my opponent is Show and Tell plus Palantir and is not actually graveyard oriented, then this stuff comes out. This Nurturing Peatland goes back in. And the whole plan becomes just go faster than them with this as backup. So Mox Opal goes back in the deck to make it so that I can go faster. I'm higher on lands than normal. I think I'm going to pull 1 Ancient Tomb or 1 Mox Opal when I'm on the play. Alright. Turn 1, Inquisition you. Turn 2, Vampire Hexmage. Turn 3, Make a Thing. I have Boseiju as an additional piece of interaction. But despite how much fast mana is in this deck, I have very rarely just had the nuts of like 2 black mana on turn 1, Dark Depths go. And the last time I played a deck that looked like this, I 4-1 and did that like every time. And the deck construction is pretty similar to that. All right. Urborg, Inquisition you. Show and Tell, Dress Down, Brainstorm, Brainstorm. Take Show and Tell. My opponent's Brainstorm can kind of readjust their hand. Just draw Dark Depths. Mox Opal. 1 mana short of doing some cool stuff. I guess I can always play my land. Do I just want to play Hexmage to start attacking? Sure. Let's get this in play. Line is worse against an Archon somehow getting dumped into play on my opponent's turn. Sure. This line uses all of my mana this turn, whereas the Expedition map line does not. Okay. And the status of these other cards is kind of unknown. All right. Thoughtseize gets to take my map. I have a 2/2. Not really what I'm looking for right now. I'm going to dismiss this stuff. Mox Diamond, not really what I'm looking for. I can take a redraw off Nurturing Peatland, which I will be doing. Bam. I think right now, because I can draw discard. Oops, all Urborgs. I'm going to go ahead and put this in play so I can use Boseiju. And I guess I hold this. Nah. So now we've got 7 tutors left in the deck to rip for a Dark Depths, or we can just find one of the copies of Urza Saga to just as easily do gross things. Sure. There's a Show and Tell. I am gonna hold this. Yeah. Okay. So at this point, I probably just lose, because this means that I can never, like, make a Marit Lage. Okay, we're out. Now we've OFI'd this league. So this one didn't go well. And I'm surprised it went as badly as it did. I don't conceptually think that what we were doing was 05 bad. Like, the Ad Nauseam, those were going to be sus from the beginning, and we knew that. But we are a super fast depths deck list that has a very solid plan B in the form of large Urza Saga tokens, because we are just playing 23 artifacts. But over the course of this league, I just, like, didn't do stuff in most of my matches and kind of fell short against interaction. Like, the exile-based removal of the initiative decks coupled with their speed just meant that if I go all in on a Marit Lage, they just answer it by pitching a white card or by tapping 1 land, and backed by Caves of Chaos Adventurers and Friends, it was just too much, and I couldn't get to, like, meaningful plan B time or, like, to the Ad Nauseam. So that didn't work out. Maybe I wasn't supposed to Pithing Needle in this deck. Like, maybe that is supposed to be crop rotation, and then I'm playing 12 tutors instead of 8. Maybe I'm supposed to play some of the profane tutors that I was considering, but they're very slow, and I'm trying to go fast. Maybe I had to build the deck with main deck discard. This one was a failure. And maybe some other day in the not too distant future, we will try the whole, like, Ad Nauseam Manabond side of the equation, and we'll see if that would have ended up working better. I was just worried about the average CMCs of this deck. So, like, I vastly lowered the, like, total, like, converted mana cost of this deck by, like, hedging in the direction with baubles and the fast mana, but that didn't work out. The Ancient Tombs didn't line up with Thespian Stage Dark Depths for quick kills, but I got them alongside Urza Sagas. They did okay. Sideboard options were okay. I'm not really great at answering larger creatures that, like, off Show and Tells and reanimates. I'm not sure if that's something this deck is supposed to try to do. but it was something I had a problem with. The Dismembers were great against like Magus of the Moon, initiative creatures, things of that nature. But yeah, let me know down in the comments below kind of what you think of this one. Let me know if you would want to see like a Manabond Ad Nauseam deck list, or if 5 rounds of boarding out the Ad Naus most of the time because it was the weakest card in the deck is appropriate for you to go like, no, we don't need to see that. regardless, if you need to buy any paper Magic cards, check out Cool Stuff Inc. Use promo code ThrabenU to save 5% on your order, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of the day. See ya.